Happy New Year and welcome back to another episode of the Caerphilly Works podcast. Today I'll be bringing you part one of a conversation I had with Gaynor, adult employment mentor for the Communities for Work project, about interviews and interview techniques. So Gaynor, everyone talks about interviews, and interviews is a big part of the job process, obviously. But a lot of people might not know, what is the point of the actual interview?
Right. Well, an interview is so you can put yourself across in the best way to a potential employer. So you've sent your CV in, and the employer have liked it. So the next stage is that they want to meet you in person. So they want a nice chat with you. That's what an interview is, really. Is a chat. I think we sort of build it up as being like this awful, torturous thing that we've got to go through. But basically that's all it is them getting to know you, you getting to know them, and finding out if you would like to work in their company and if they would like you to work in their company. So it's basically getting to know each other and finding out if you're the best person for the job.
And a lot of people might not see it that way, as being that two-way process, isn't it? They always think, I'm there for them to ask me all the questions and trip me up and try and catch me out that I don't know about the job, and that's kind of the impression a lot of people get.
Oh yeah, definitely. Some people think I'm walking into a trap here. They're going to ask me questions that I don't know the answer to, and they're going to laugh at me afterwards. But it's not that at all. I mean, an interviewer is a person the same as everyone else, and they don't like to see you being embarrassed or not knowing what you're saying. It's not nice for them either. They want you to do your best and to know that you're the best person for that job. So they're not going to ask you trick questions. The only trick question can be is if you're not prepared beforehand. So any questions then is going to be a trick question because you don't know what you're talking about. But as long as you're prepared and it's the right job for you, it should be fine. And I know that's easy to say because interviews are not the nicest thing to go through. But hopefully when some of the things we're going through today will help to prepare people and to make sure that you and the interviewer get the best out of the interview.
Yeah, and like I said, preparing is the biggest part of all of that. And obviously the more you do, the better equipped you'll be to answer the questions.
Oh, of course,
You're never going to know 100% because no one knows walking into an interview what the questions are going to be, who the people are going to be sometimes, and how the interview is going to be structured or laid out. Because there's so many different types of interview as well, and different ways of doing interviews.
These days you've got the Zoom interviews, you've got phone interviews, because people are not able to get into a venue or a building. That's new to most people, I think, these days, the Zoom interviews. But again, you've got to prepare in exactly the same way. Sometimes it can be easier being on the phone or on the video because you can have all your notes and you can have everything familiar around you. You're in your own environment. So sometimes that can seem a bit scary. It can sort of work to your advantage in a bit of a way because it's you were in your own safe place.
Yeah. How do you feel actually about people taking notes to an interview? Because I've spoken to people before and they just look at me like, you can't do that, you can't take notes. And I'm thinking, well, I've done it, I've taken notes in before.
Well, I think you can. I think there's no hard and fast rule about whether you take notes or not. As long as you haven't got a notebook that you're just reading from, literally word for word, I don't think that would come across very well. But if you just got a few little post-its that you got in your hands, you can just sort of glance at to sort of prompt you, I think that should be fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, because the worst thing as well, and everyone does it, you walk out the interview at the end of the day and it's like, oh, I should have said this, oh, I should have said that, oh, I knew I wanted to mention whatever and I didn't, and that's why I took to write in little things down. Make sure you tell them about this, make sure you tell them about that.
Definitely. Yeah, that's definitely. But you can also be prepared beforehand. Like you were saying then about not knowing what questions you're going to be asked and thinking, oh, I wish I'd said this, wish I'd said that. If you look at the job description or the person specification that 99.9% comes with a job advert, you can sort of guess in a way, I suppose, what the questions are going to be. I mean, if they're asking on the person spec that you've got to have 5 GCSEs, just make sure that you mention at some point during that interview you are educated to GCSE standard, you've got 5 GCSEs. So it's just making sure that you read through the person spec at what they're looking for and sort of guessing what maybe the questions could be based on the person spec and the job description.
And a good way to take a lot of that guesswork out is obviously to have yourself a mentor.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Who have lots of experience and who've done all this before. You know, a lot of the jobs that people go for, they know inside and out. They've had so many participants go through so many interviews. They kind of know the questions that are going to come up, or the relevant ones that will come up.
I mean, we've had as mentors. I mean, I know myself. I've had awful interviews. That's when I look back, I cringe and think, oh my God, why did I say that? Why did I do that? For example, I'm like I said, I'm working in the council now, Caerphilly Council, which I've worked here for 20 years. So, and during that time, I've got to know from being in different departments that some departments like you to say certain things, some departments like you to say other things. But when I first started, I was I got a job in social services, and my interview for that was appalling. And I blush every time I think of it because it was so awful. The first question they asked me, which is such an easy question to answer, was, what do you know about social services? I didn't have a clue. I didn't realise at that time that most places will ask, what do you know about the company, and you've got to research it. I didn't. So I was just like, the first question totally threw me, and it was such an easy question to answer if I had looked it up. That's all you need to say is a couple of sentences. But no, what I said, well, my auntie had fostered some children. And I was like, oh, God, Gaynor, what a stupid answer to that question. and it sort of threw me for the rest of the interview. But luckily, I got the job. But I could have made it just so much easier for myself if I'd thought about it beforehand. But that comes with experience. And like you said, mentors have had that experience. And we sort of know the type of things that an interviewer is going to ask, and we can go through that with our participants to make sure that they don't have the same bad experience that I had.
And it was good in that situation, obviously, that you did get the job.
It
could have been all down to many different factors. I think it possibly could have been that you answered the rest of the questions better. They got to know you. Maybe, that question was they didn't expect you to know everything about it, or maybe you answered it better than you thought you did.
Well, I think I was just awful, Craig, to be honest. And particularly, like I said, be prepared for anything. And sometimes an employer will sometimes leave a phone number on the advert. So make sure you keep that. And if you do get an interview, give them a call. And they don't mind that. I think an employer would rather that you called them beforehand, and just to get a little bit more information about exactly how the interview is going to progress and what sort of form it'll take, rather than going in there sort of not knowing anything and making a complete mess of it. So, just make that little effort beforehand to speak to the employer. They'll remember you as well then, and think, oh yeah, there's that person who phoned me.
Because you made an effort to call them.
And get in touch. It's a bit more initiative. They remember that and think, well, yeah, that was good practice actually to make that phone call, and they remember you from it. So, again, you're saying about different sorts of interviews. I've had an interview many years ago for Asda, and it was a group interview, and we had to go in our little groups and do an advert for washing powder, and then stand up in our little groups in front of the larger group doing our advert. And I had never ever done anything like that in my life before.
And it's funny that the team interview, it tends to be a lot for obviously team-oriented roles, like if you're working in retail or something. And a lot of people have kind of said, like, oh, if I'm going for a job where I'm, working on the checkouts or stacking shelves or something, why do I need to go in and like you've done, make an advert to present it? I'm not going to be making adverts. But I guess all they want to know there is that you can work as part of a team. You're showing your initiative to do something. How you work? Do you lead? Do you follow? And there's no right or wrong. Yeah. It's just participating in that.
No, but still, you've got to be very careful when, like you said, with leading and following. You don't want to be the one who's sort of being too out there, telling everyone what to do. But at the other hand, you don't want to be on the other end of the scale of being just sat back and everyone sort of walking all over you. So that's a fine line to draw as well. in that type of
You want to
interview.
be a team player, so that's the key word then, is team, be part of the
Definitely,
team.
yeah, team player.
So I know we've had some bits and pieces from the team. They sent through their little stories and little tips and tricks that they find helps with interviews and things. I don't know if we want to go through some of those. And
Yeah, there's one from one of our employment mentors. I want to say her name is, I call her Linda. But she's a very good employment mentor. But some of the things that she's sent us, you would wonder. But obvious she's learned from her mistakes.
it's okay, I'll cut that bit out.
And that's a good thing, you know. You again, like with an interview, you go in there, you think, well, I did a really bad interview, but what can I take from that?
And it's learning. I know it's the evolution of you finding out about how you react in an interview, I guess, as well, and your strengths and your weaknesses and what to expect, and then going back and trying it again, you know?
Yeah, because you can take the good and the bad from there and think, well, I did that really well, so next time I'm gonna make sure I do that again. And you don't want to dwell on the bad things, because the more you dwell on it, the more likely you're going to do the same next time. So just think of what you may not have done quite so well, and think how you could improve on that.
And most people are going to have more bad interviews and good interviews in their lives anyway.
I guess making sure you're going for the right job, I suppose. It's like it's no good going for the chief executive's job if you've never had any experience of managerial work, or you do need sometimes to build yourself up. There's nothing wrong with going for or thinking at some point you want a chief exec's job, but sometimes you need to work your way up through it. So, and again, like I said, don't be afraid to go for fixed term or maternity cover, because I did, and I'm still there 20 years later. So sometimes that does put people off actually applying for jobs, is that they think that if it's temporary, they're not going to bother. But it's a step in the door. Right, I'm just gonna say Linda. Right, so you said she sent us some, but the third one, she said the third interview she got wrong was for a job very similar to the one she's doing now. And I can remember her coming over as redeployment. So she was working somewhere else, and the job finished, and so she came over to our department and had this job interview. And thought it was a completely different project, because there were two projects called the same thing. And she thought it was a different one from what she was going for. So the managers had to explain to her what the project actually was. And the main manager actually apologised to her. She still answered the questions really well, apparently, because she got the job. So she said, best not include it as a specific quote, which I have, but I guess the moral of the story is to do your job research really well, but make sure it's for the right job. But if you haven't, don't panic, because you still may get the job anyway.
And I guess a good thing to take away from that is, you mentioned this earlier, is don't be afraid to phone up the person. And if you find that there's, two jobs that sound exactly the same but are different, phone up and say, look, is it for this or is it for that? And then better prepared.
Yeah, definitely. Preparation's a key, Craig. Definitely.
Yeah, I've got one from a member of the team here. It's a bit of a funny one, who said they had one of their clients answer their phone in the middle of an interview and told the person on the phone, I can't talk, I'm in an interview and I think it's in the bag.
Right, there's a few things wrong with that one.
Just a few.
First of all, turn your phone off before you go in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big, big thing. Because there's nothing worse than you're in the middle of an interview and your phone goes off. Even if you don't answer it, it doesn't look very professional. It doesn't look as if you particularly taken much care when when you've gone in. So yeah, first thing with that one, turn your phone off. Secondly, don't assume that you've got the job. Don't take anything for granted. And it's not very nice to say in front of the employer that you think you've got the job. The most likely reaction is to that is, no, you haven't.
No, of course not.
Someone else sent something in as well to say that he had an interview. It was over 2 hours drive away at the head office. So he decided that he'd put a suit on, which is great, dress appropriately. wear your suits, wear your smart clothing. If you haven't got a suit, smart clothing is just as good. But he put trainers on because he was, he was driving there, taking a long time, not very nice wearing your smart shoes. So he got in plenty of time and was really focused on doing well at the interview, but he forgot to put his shoes back on. So when he was in the interview, they asked him, "Are you trying to copy David Tennant in Doctor Who?" Which, it's a little bit like cringy in there.
Yeah.
He said, "Needless to say, many apologies later, I was lucky enough to get the job. And when attending appointments at that particular office, was always asked if I remembered to put my shoes on." So again, preparation, but
And
remember to put your
always
shoes.
check yourself before you go into the interview as well.
Definitely.
Check you haven't got any stains down your shirts as well, I guess, as well as changing your shoes and what
Yeah.
have you. And
Oh, yeah, because my worst thing is like I don't know, this is like quite personal, but I'll say it anyway. I usually clean my teeth after I've got dressed, and there's nothing. If you drop toothpaste down your top,
yeah.
and it doesn't show until after when it dries, doesn't it? It comes up all like a white patch. So yeah, make sure you don't drop toothpaste on your top. My
Or
main tip.
probably brush your teeth and then get dressed.
Oh yeah, clean your teeth first. Yeah, maybe that's a better tip. But yeah, again, like going back to preparation, you do need to. Your clothing is a biggie with an interview. You need to feel comfortable. If you're not used to wearing a suit, it can feel a bit sort of stiff, and you don't feel confident. Some people feel confident as soon as they put a suit on, and others may feel the other way. But you do whatever type of interview you go for, I would say dress smartly. Even if you haven't got a proper three-piece suit, you do need to dress in trousers, not jeans, not trainers, shirts, probably.
Oh, a nice top sometimes, if you've got something, a formal top or something to put on, there's something that goes down quite well.
Yeah, and if you were with a mentor in Communities for Work or Plus, we have got budgets that we can pay for you to go and buy interview clothes if you haven't got them. So, that's one questions that they ask. You can't assume that everyone knows what to wear at an interview. So I do usually ask if one of my participants has an interview, do you know what type of clothing to wear? And have you got that clothing? Because if you haven't, that's something we can help you with. And recently, one of my participants got an interview for a security job, an SIA job. And he was told that he had to wear the full clothing that you would see sort of like a security officer wearing, like a black tie, black trousers, a shirt, and he was supposed to wear that to the interview. So it's really good practice to read through your email or your letter that you sent prior to the interview, just to make sure that you've got everything that you need, that you're dressed in the right way, that you've got any ID that you need, like a photo ID, passport, driving license, a birth certificate. Because some places, if you're asked for specific qualifications, they will ask that you take copies or originals of your qualifications as well. So make sure that you read everything beforehand, because you don't want to get there and then all of a sudden you found that you're not dressed right, you haven't got the right stuff with you, because again, that's something that can really throw you off and make the interview get off to a really bad start.
Yeah, and it's making sure you prepare. And I know there have been interviews in the past where I wanted to take my record of achievement down with all my qualifications. Oh, where have I put it? And I'm rushing around 10 minutes if I got to leave the house to find it. Make sure it's there the night before. And you've got everything on hand and ready to go, learn from my mistake there,
Yeah, but Craig, I'm showing my age now because there was no record of achievements when I left school. We just had a piece of paper.
I don't even know if people take them anymore. It was a thing when I was, my generation of people used to take them to every interview, and I still take mine, but I don't know whether people are still recommended to take your record of achievement, do they?
I think probably it's nice to take. It's best to take too much than not enough. Obviously, you don't want to take a suitcase full of stuff with you, but sometimes it's nice to have that. If you're taking a record of achievement, sometimes it's nice to have something to hold on to sort of ground you while you're there in the interview. I don't know about you, but I do tend to fling my arms around when I'm talking.
I'm trying to hold my arms down now, even though it's only audio, recording. I do tend to move my arms a
me
lot.
too. I'm sat on mine, which is maybe what you should do in an interview, is to sit on your hands, or hold your record of achievement book, so your hands are not flinging about. But yeah, it's if it asks for certain qualifications, it is maybe best to take those certificates with you. I know definitely in Caerphilly Council, they do take copies of your certificates. Like I said, it's best to have them and not need them than not have them and they're asking for them, because you don't need anything to sort of put you off when you're having an interview. Any little thing will sort of trigger you into a panic. So best to have everything there.
And if they ask that right at the beginning, and you can, I've forgotten it, you're done.
Yeah.
You're going to be, I forgot to do this now, and that's going to put you off for the rest of the interview.
It can do, yeah, it really can. So yeah, be prepared.
So that's the end of part 1 of our conversation with Gaynor about interview techniques. Tune in next time for part 2, where we'll be continuing our conversation all about interviews, interview techniques, interview preparation, and the do's and don'ts of going to an interview. As always, if you'd like to get in touch, you can call us directly on 01443 864 227. You can email us at communityregen@caerphilly.gov.uk, or you can find us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube at Caerphilly Regen. Until next time, stay safe, take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye!
The Caerphilly Works podcast is a collaboration between Communities for Work, Communities for Work Plus, Bridges into Work 2, Inspire to Work, Working Skills for Adults and NET. The Communities for Work Employment Support Team is funded by the Welsh Government and the European Social Fund, working in partnership with Communities and Job Centre Plus.